Good afternoon. Today is Monday, April 12th, 2021. It is 5:05 p.m. and we're here for the regular trustee meeting. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance. Join us, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an agenda before us. Are there any changes or additions?
Yes, Board, I would like to, under fire, between requests to approve change orders for Station 65 and the Biweekly Report, I'd like to add National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. It's already on your printed copy there.
Any other changes? Mr. Rushing? Good?
No, we're good.
Hearing no other changes or corrections, I would move to have the agenda approved.
Second.
As presented.
As presented?
Or as amended, sorry.
Ms. Wallace?
Yes.
Ms. Dean?
Yes.
Mr. Kretz?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $388,124.05 for the 3/24/21 payroll.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes.
I move to accept the general ledger report in the amount of $391,062.67 for the 4/7/2021 payroll.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes.
I make a motion to accept the payments listing report in the amount of $329,464.44 for warrants through 4/8/2021.
Second.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes. We have minutes from the regular trustee meeting on March 22nd. Do we have any changes, recommendations for those minutes? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I move to adopt the minutes for the March 22nd, 2021 regular trustee meeting as presented.
Second.
Trustee Wallace?
Yes.
Trustee Dean?
Yes.
Trustee Kretz?
Yes. Okay, at this time, we open the microphone up to any citizens desiring to speak. If anyone's here would like to speak, come up and please use the microphone, state your name and address. Be glad to hear from you. Come on up.
Try to pack a lot of words into 3 minutes. Would you like a copy or not?
You can have, pass to the administrator.
Oh, okay. And for whoever has to take minutes. Or guys.
We'll listen to you more than we'll read, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
We'll read.
My name is Chet Bryant, 12334 Homestead Drive, 45385. All right, I mentioned in a previous trustees meeting that there's a significant opposition to the Valley Bell Connector Road, and I would try to quantify and summarize that for you. A petition to stop the connector road has been started and currently has 150 signatures. While that's not immense, they're all local signatures. The vast majority are from Beavercreek Township, and all of them are from Greene County. The petition is not being put up on far-reaching social media. Over the coming months, we'll try to get the petition into some large neighborhoods in the township near the connector road, where I expect we will gather hundreds more signatures. Greene County public input also supports the objective of our petition. Both the county's internet surveys and their Perspectives 2040 workshop, the public's #1 goal has been to preserve natural resources in our rural communities. Specific input has been to use and improve existing roads and not build new ones if at all possible. I and the 150 signatories are asking the trustees and administrator to stop planning construction of this road. Use and improve Valley and Upper Bellbrook as the end of your north-south traffic corridor. Not building this road will not hinder the Maxwell Place or Spring Valley Farm development. In fact, I can guarantee you the Maxwell Place residents will enjoy their development more without a new road next to it. The township administrator has affirmed this road is not needed for proper response times for the proposed Fire Station 66. Building this road, however, will moves the end of the traffic corridor just 1.5 miles and only cuts 4 minutes of a beautiful township commuting to a 2-minute commute. But building the road will cost taxpayers taxpayers millions of dollars. It will immediately increase noise pollution for miles around it. It will bring trash and runoff to one of the few remaining pristine areas in the township. It will cross and damage some of the precious wetland acreage remaining in the county, and it will disrupt wildlife migration through currently connected habitats. Your constituents do not see a compelling need for this road. Please listen to them by using and improving our current infrastructure and not crisscrossing our township with roads and intersections. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for attending the meeting. Thanks for voicing your opinion. I show that your home address, though, is actually on Hidden Forest Court, and that there's 2 lots that you purchased, one in December of 20 and one in 2019. So this road would actually run along the back of your property. Is that correct?
Correct. However,
Okay.
I don't live there yet.
Right. I understand there's no home built there yet, but and so prior to you, given the length of time that this road project has been on the thoroughfare plan and has been in discussion at the county level, why were you not interested in this road before you purchased the lots?
Probably like most people, unaware. You know, a lot goes on here that people are just unaware of is happening until it pops up on the radar.
Okay. Or in their backyard. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Either
Thank
one.
you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pre-scheduled speaker, Greene County Sanitary Engineering.
Thank you, trustees, and thanks, Alex, for getting me on the agenda here. My name is Jason Tinkey. I'm the director, Greene County Sanitary. Been with Greene County going on about 2.5 years now at Sanitary, and we're very excited to get out in front of our participating municipalities and present our reinvestment campaign, talk a little bit about the utility and what we have in plans and in the works, and just appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do. Green Forward is going to be the marketing kind of tagline for our reinvestment campaign. We'll talk a little bit more about what it entails and how we're going to obviously get out to the public and use technology to help keep people educated, promote what we're doing, things like that. So if you don't know a whole lot about Greene County Sanitary, this is kind of, I call it our circle of life at Sanitary. Water acquisition, obviously the aquifer, we take great pride in the aquifer and obviously count on it for upwards of 9 to 10 million gallons of water a day right now. We pull that out. We've got 3 different aquifer areas currently. We're currently developing a 4th, which is the Hilltop well field at the corner of Hilltop and Fairgrounds Road. That well field, once developed, is going to be able to produce another 3 to 5 million gallons of drinking water, new water for us per day. Moving on to the water treatment plants. Currently, we have 3 main water treatment facilities, and we buy bulk water from Montgomery County and Dayton. We've got the Northwest Regional Plant, which is behind Rotary Park. We've got the South Plant, which is now at the dead end of Shakertown, the old environmental lab. And then we've got the Southwest Regional Plant out on 42, which is in Spring Valley area. So the one thing about our utility, how it has evolved over time, it is a very broad, stretching, diverse utility. Makes it a little bit challenging to operate when you think about we've got sewer and water in Clifton and in Cedarville and Shawnee Lake and things like that. Most people just think Greene County Sanitary is just basically Beavercreek services, and we're spread out all over the place. So something to keep in mind. So from the water treatment plant, go into water distribution, obviously the elevated towers, really going aggressive on getting our towers back up to par as far as exterior paintings and labeling. Right now we're doing the Ferry Road Tower in Spring Valley, as well as the Upper Bell Tower. We're currently doing coatings of both of those. So then as you obviously, you hit your taps there, whether it's a business or a residence, obviously that's our cost recovery. You've got your water sewer usage at the top. generating your sewage, sewer collection system. So basically we have 4 wastewater treatment plants. We've got the Beavercreek Wastewater Treatment Plant on Factory. We've got the Sugar Creek plant out on 725 outside of Bellbrook. We've got the Clifton wastewater plant, which is a tiny little package plant on 72. And then we've got the Cedarville plant. So lots of operations, lots of complexities to run all of those. But obviously all of those discharge into the Little Miami River, which is the state's first national and state scenic river. We take great pride in it. I was involved in the late 90s, early 2000s when I worked for the city of Xenia, and what was put in place was a total maximum daily load for phosphorus. So all the wastewater plants in this area have been treating for phosphorus for 20 years, and it's truly been a blessing for the river and water quality. It's, the data that we're seeing, the chemistry, as well as the invertebrates and fish species that we're seeing in the river are the best they've been in a really, really long time. So it's something that, people don't necessarily understand that. We had elevated sewer charges for quite a long time, and a lot of that was to upgrade the plants to treat for phosphorus. So the end product is in very good shape. In the middle there is environmental services. So that's our operation over on Greenway Boulevard. Massive recycling center for yard waste, recyclables, household hazardous waste. So that's kind of sanitary. We've got about 85 employees at this point, so pretty big department, lots to manage across that. So right now we have about 27,000 customer accounts, lots of customer accounts. In 2020 we treated about 5 billion gallons of wastewater. In 2020, we also produced about 2 billion gallons of drinking water. You're probably doing the math and saying, where's the extra 3 million come from? The extra 3 million comes from a couple of sources. One of them is Montgomery County and Dayton. We buy bulk water from them. So some of the water we buy from them comes back to us in wastewater. And some of the other contributions come from what we call I&I, that's inflow and infiltration. So that's sump pumps that are connected, that's downspouts that are connected. Beavercreek does have a significant portion, and Beavercreek Township, of old residences that necessarily didn't meet plumbing code, or they didn't have a whole lot of plumbing code back in the day, and they're directly plumbed into the sewer system. So that's something we're keeping a close eye on, because it may be advantageous for us to do some separations of those rather than have to deal with all that water, especially at the Beavercreek plant. So we're looking at ways to try to either partner with private homeowners or possibly fund some of that with county dollars to then divert some investments at the plant. So what is Greene Forward? Obviously, we're upgrading the water and sewer system. The goal is here, every time we touch one of our facilities, we're going to reinstitute at least 20 years of serviceable life for that facility. It's very important. These assets are in pretty good shape. If you think about Beavercreek and Beavercreek Township, a lot of the development has happened the 80s on. A lot of the new stuff. So the pipes are relatively young. The assets, we find that our numbers as far as main breaks and some of our performance standards are much better than some of the older municipalities in the older regions. So the improvements that we're looking at doing are going to be implemented over the next 5 to 7 years. Why are we doing it? Obviously, Greene County has aging infrastructure, hard water, and growing demand. The Greene Forward is going to help us upgrade and add new facilities to keep delivering clean water and sewer services for the next generation. In short, we worry so you don't have to. Customers can get clean, soft water from their tap, flush and forget, and be confident that the treated water is going to help to preserve the rivers. So just a little snapshot. ASCE does this every year, and it's basically the grade card of infrastructure. I'll just point out, it's hard to read. Obviously, wastewater is at a D+ nationwide, and drinking water is at a D+ is drinking water, and at a C- is wastewater. So, a lot of the rest of the nation is in much worse shape than we are. I wouldn't necessarily, I've been doing this for almost 23 years now, and I wouldn't necessarily grade Greene County Sanitary that way, but a lot of people are facing a lot of challenges, and it's not popular politically to be raising rates and talking about massive rate increases at any point in the near future either. So we feel like we've got a great opportunity here, and I'll talk a little bit more about how it's going to be funded. The first phase is going to focus on the water system. And we'll dive into those projects specifically in a couple of slides here, but basically the goal is to be able to produce 12 million gallons of soft water from our own facilities. Right now we can produce about 9.5, obviously of hard water. So we did a water system master plan that included all your build out areas. We collaborated closely with Alex and the township, as well as all of our other participating jurisdictions. And the prediction was 12 million gallons is a 20-year window. And then what we're going to do is we're going to build the plant to be able to be scaled up to 16 million gallons if we need it in the future. So. Second phase is going to be focused on wastewater treatment. We're going to be looking at the facilities as well as the sewer collection system. So everybody's favorite topic, how are we going to afford it? So basically what we're doing is rate balancing. Greene County over time has had very high rates because of the rate of growth. You add the rate of growth, you add the level of investment that we had to do for phosphorus at the wastewater plants. The city of Oakwood does an annual survey for water and sewer rates, and every year for almost my entire career, Greene County's been up there very high. Well, through some management controls, some financial constraint and whatnot, we've worked our way down into the middle ranges. We're very proud of that. The commissioners are, as well as Brandon and myself. We feel like we're in a good spot to be competitive, and it's very hard to compare ourselves with anybody else on that survey because you think about the city of Xenia, very centralized, compressed, not a whole lot of travel time, lots of accounts in really small spaces. Ours is so spread out. We have a whole lot of travel time, response times, a lot of buried assets to get water somewhere far, to get sewer back somewhere else. So we like to look at Montgomery County and Dayton and kind of compare ourselves to that on the Oakwood survey. And we're very happy to say that the city of Dayton, because of the economy of scale, they're able to keep their costs down pretty well because of the number of customers they have. But Montgomery County, both Montgomery County and Dayton are going very aggressive over the next 3 to 5 years. I think they're both at least looking at 15 to 25% rate increases for water and sewer. We, on the other hand, what we're doing is we've got a competitive water rate, but we've got a relatively high sewer rate. What we're recommending is across about a 3-year window, raising the sewer rate or the water rate about 2%, because the end users are going to get softened water now. And then what we're doing is at the same time, we're going to drop the sewer rate in 1.5%. And I'll show you how the math works out, but it basically takes an average family of 4, an $80 average bill across those 3 years is going to be flat because we're dropping the sewer rate while we're raising the water rate. So it's a very unique opportunity for us. We've got a ton of debt falling off is how we're doing this. But our models are showing that it's really, really a good time to do it. So all in all, this program is about a $100 million investment, and to be able to do that without raising rates to the end user, it's a huge, huge opportunity. So obviously it results in no change to an average residential water and sewer bill. Now we do have some water-only customers, which we'll see that increase over time, but obviously they're going to be getting soft water now as well. So we feel, that's a fair deal. So financial plans, we're updating our financial model right now. We're going to be meeting with Brandon as well as the commissioners to make a recommendation probably later on in 2021. And then what we wanted to do was make it a little bit easier on everybody and start to talk about some planned inflationary increases, whether that's alternating years of 1.5% or 2%. We want to at least talk about that with the commissioners because moving forward, we can't just have, this debate every year about whether, we need to keep up with the cost of living. I mean, you guys see it on your end, and we at least want to have that conversation with the commissioners about pre-programming, some alternating inflationary increases after the program's done. So here's the cut sheet on the rate adjustments there. As you can see, single-family water bill across those 3 years. And the sewer bill, if you look down to that third row there, the total average single-family bill, 2022 is when we were going to, or 2023 is when we were going to recommend making that 2% and 1.5%. And you can see it's just, it's pennies as you look at, the total comprehensive bill for families. So very important. I'm a ratepayer, I'm a customer, I'm a resident. This means something to me to be able to work these finances for the community. There is the Oakwood survey. As I spoke of, like I said, we're right in the middle ranges for affordability, which we're very, very proud of. And as I spoke of, Dayton and Montgomery County are going pretty aggressive on their rate increases over the next few years. The rate balancing approach is going to keep us competitive, across the next series of years, so we're very excited about it. So how is it going to be funded? Right now, we are seeing 20-year rates from the state agencies. The Ohio EPA Division of Environmental Finance Assistance has less than 0.5% is what we're seeing for money. So we are looking at borrowing from that rather than doing bonds. Bond market is really hot as well, so we'll see what the next 6 months, what it pans out. But right now, we have loan applications in for all of our water projects through Ohio EPA DEFA. So who's going to manage Greene Forward? Obviously, we do not have a massive engineering staff. Obviously, we're going to be relying on a lot of outside design consultants. We have got somebody that's managing our program, so they're managing every task related to every project and all the financials. Going to be using industry standard tools and practices. We do have a request in front of the commission to get one more engineering staff to help manage the program. We're very excited about that. So we feel like we're in good shape to manage it. And I was a little bit worried about taking on too much. And I feel like taking care of the water side first and then attacking the wastewater makes a lot of sense. And I think we're going to do good as far as managing the program. So how are customers going to stay updated? Hopefully everybody, all of our customers are starting to see much more, predictable and positive public education with our community newsletters that are coming out with the bills. Greene Forward, we're going to be developing a website that will be the clearinghouse of all project-related information. So it'll have a tab for each project. It'll talk about what the scope of the project is, the impact on customers, and then any new information will be obviously uploaded onto that website. So we're very excited about that. That will be launching this summer. So just a quick snapshot over the wastewater or the water system improvements. As I spoke, we're developing the Hilltop well field. I'll be working closely with obviously your staff for a number of items related to that. We were able to keep that in the Stonehill PUD, so obviously we'll be collaborating with that, but we're very excited about that well field. Like I said, it's estimated to be able to provide another 3 to 5 million gallons of new water for us. Well optimization, so we have a series of wells existing in the ground. We're basically reinforcing and rebuilding those, bringing them up to the same standard. A lot of those were put in different times with different technologies, with different pumps and different controls. We're going to gut all of them and standardize all of them, so a little bit smarter way to manage the utility. We can obviously, streamline our inventory controls and things of that nature. So, making sure that those existing wells are going to produce for us when we need them. Water treatment plant upgrade, we contracted with Shook and AECom under a design build partnership. And that project, we had our first kickoff meeting on Friday. We're very excited. I keep reminding the team, I said 20 months to go. The goal is to have soft water for the community in 20 months. So very excited. Shook AECom team was one of 3 teams, and all 3 teams were very strong, but we're very excited about what they were bringing to the table. We're looking at membrane technology, and it's a lot like RO. If you have an RO system at home, this is kind of the preferred softening technology out there. Miamisburg just did one. Huber Heights just did one. Blanking here. Warren County is putting in 2 softening plants with this technology, so it's kind of become the standard. The other way to do mass softening is through lime softening, and it takes a lot of real estate, like on the side of Route 4. City of Dayton uses lime for their softening, so you have to have lime lagoons, and it's not exactly the best place for that right in Rotary Park. So that's going to be the selected technology. We're very excited about it. There's going to be other enhancements to the plant that are made, but primarily we'll be increasing our filter capacity and then taking the filter effluent and taking it right through membrane softening. Booster station transmission lines. So I talked about we buy a lot of bulk water from Montgomery County and Dayton. We pay market rate for that water, and we can produce it for pennies on the dollar compared to what we buy it from the market. So we're putting pipes in the ground and upsizing booster stations to be able to feed Greene County water to those pressure zones. So it's a very strategic financial payback for us to do that. I think we pay back those improvements in just a handful of years. So water metering system. So you may have heard we're bidding a new AMI, automated meter infrastructure system. So instead of our employees driving through the neighborhoods and using a radio read, it will be an automated read either through cellular or through radio. And we're very excited about it. The plan is to do complete replacement. The end user will have an app on their phone so customers can set up, they can track their trends daily, weekly, monthly. They can set up leak detection alerts for if you've got a toilet running in the middle of the night, you can get a detection alert. And we're very excited. When I was hesitant to go full on AMI at first when I started looking at things, but the average age of our meters are about 17 years. So with the estimated useful life of 20, we just decided, hey, it's time. Not only does the infrastructure need rebuilt, but also let's upgrade to this technology. Fairborn's another one that just recently went to this, and I was talking to Pete Bales, and they had great reception when they did it over in Fairborn. So moving on to the sewer system improvements. Right now we've got a lift station elimination project over in the area that was affected by the tornado in Garden View area. So we've got 3 50-plus-year-old lift stations, sewage lift stations that were built as that neighborhood evolved. They're all 3 at the end of their useful life. So we were able to secure federal dollars from the Department of Commerce. 60% of that's going to be federally funded. So very excited about that opportunity. Alex, I think, was part of that, and Pete was at the city of Beavercreek as well, supporting that project. So it's a great project for our entire utility to be able to get almost $4 million from the feds to do a priority project for us. Clifton Wastewater Treatment Plant, spoke about that. That plant, our utility has evolved over time with small, villages and whatnot, wanting to get out of the business. This is one of those that ended up being, with the Greene County sanitary family, and it's a small little 30,000 gallon a day package wastewater plant that's in pretty bad shape. So we've got that planned for replacement. Actually, we may go out to bid this year for that project. The bidding climate right now for construction is very complex, and it's very risky. Raw materials, labor with the pandemic. So we're trying to be mindful of that. When's the best time on the market to put some of these big projects out to bid? And then Beavercreek, Cedarville, and Sugar Creek will all get planned upgrades. The Beavercreek wastewater plant needs a small increase in its hydraulic capacity. We are looking at also doing odor controls at Beavercreek. I hear that quite often being a resident. And we're very sensitive. We saw some plans come out the other day about another development over there close to the plant, and likewise of the road concerns. I hope somebody's talking about the wastewater plant still being there. But we are looking at doing odor controls there. Any exposed wet wells, we're going to do away with what's called primary treatment, which is basically let the raw sewage sit in a primary settling tank and it settles out. So lots of odors can be emitted from those. We're going to look at doing away with that in our upgrade. And then there's strategic ways that you can do odor control by putting some domes over top of it and sending that air. You pull a vacuum on that and you send that air and you treat that air. So looking at making some significant improvements in odor control at Beavercreek. Cedarville's an interesting plant. It's going to have to double in size because the university is growing so fast. Cedarville University is going to have their biggest freshman class this fall, and we're going to have to double the wastewater plant size at Cedarville. Sugar Creek, we just recently upgraded that in 2009, so we're just looking at some equipment replacement. It's not going to be super significant. And the interesting thing about that plant is that 60% of the flow and the operating revenue comes from Montgomery County because it served Centerville and some of those Sugar Creek, outer regions there of Montgomery County. So, and then I spoke a little bit about the inflow and infiltration abatement program. That's still in development. How do we get this excess flow off of the sewer, without significantly impacting or burdening our residents? So it's something to think about. And there is a trigger point on if we can get this much flow out of the sewer, we can reduce this much capital at the plant. So we just need to find where that balance is at. And with that, Greene Forward, this isn't our website yet. We hope to get that. We're in development for that, but they threw it on there too early and I couldn't get it off. It was one of those custom-made slides. I'm like, oh. So, but with that, I will answer any questions or.
Well, Jason, thanks for the presentation, and I know, speaking for several people about the upgrade in the softer water, Greene County water has been so hard for so long.
Mhm.
It'd be nice to get rid of, and then you can use that as a selling point, to get rid of your water softeners, because you'll be saving money on that side.
Absolutely, and we have to be sensitive, and you'll hear this and see this more and more, but, you know, we are talking about, you know, we're gonna have to slowly blend the softened water into the system. So there'll be a lot of close customer communication with, you know, what settings should people have it on, what they should be mindful of. Right now we have hard water. Hard water tends to be a great coagulant for pipe deficiencies and things like that. And when you put soft water right in behind it, it can slough off some material and cause you some mechanical issues. So we're gonna have to be very careful with our wording and our communication. But all in all, once we work the bugs out of the system, it's going to be a much more reliable and a better quality water. So excited about it.
What do you anticipate that, for lack of a better term, flush through period being?
You know,
Is that 1 year, or is that a 3-year process?
It's probably a 3-month.
Okay.
Yeah, the EPA, we'll have to work with the EPA to do what's called a corrosion control program, to make sure that we don't negatively affect water quality. But, you know, we will slowly blend that stuff through according to the EPA's recommended plan. And obviously we'll be monitoring it all over the place. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And then how does that affect any public systems that essentially fire might rely on, as far as none of that water essentially, I mean, from a standpoint of.
Probably better for the impellers and everything else.
Right, I'm just saying, just from an equipment standpoint,
Yeah,
an
it'll be
apparatus
better.
standpoint, and hydrants, and
Yeah.
maintaining those hydrants and flushing them out, is that something that's are we gonna have to essentially increase the cycle by which we flush those hydrants or not? Or?
I don't necessarily think so. I think we're actually going to have a better quality water. And we've talked about, you know, we reinstituted the hydrant flushing program just over the last few months here. We're talking about synergies between, you know, what we're doing operationally on our end and what they need to do on their end. So we're looking to collaborate very closely on, you know, some of the fire requirements and recommendations and what our needs are. So it's not going to be without headache. I'd be lying up here if I told you it was, but we're going to work our way through it, and it's going to be a much better product in the end. So.
Okay, any other questions?
Those were mine.
So, great presentation.
Yes,
Thank you.
appreciate
Appreciate
it.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jason.
Alex, just before we go on, and so not, just a couple questions to clarify some of the public comments that were made. So relative to the, I know we call it the Valley Bell Connector, whether it's formally or ever officially called that or not, relative to that project, if you can bring that back up on GIS. All right. Thanks again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So a little history just for us as far as how long ago this project started, as far as when this road was contemplated, and then kind of walk us through the most recent years as far as when the work was done to essentially put water through there to the airport.
Sure. So the original, and don't quote me on the date, it was late 80s, early 90s was when public hearings were occurring to talk about the Valley Bell Connector. It was going to be called a different road, but essentially connected the valley over off of 68 to Bellbrook, and that's why it was called the Valley Bell Connector. So the original discussion in regards to, and then the county thoroughfare plans, so on, the county would have that information in regards to the public meetings they had on the county thoroughfare plan. In regards to when the township got involved was in 2014 with the inception of the Valley Springs Farm PUD, and where they submitted a master plan that included not only the Valley Bell connector showing through from Indian Ripple to Valley, but also some of the internal roads that they would need for their development as well. And then that was several public hearings regarding that development. And then we had public hearings regarding both at the zoning commission level as well as the trustee level for Maxwell Place, which Maxwell Place requires the road to go in, and a site plan has been approved by the township that requires the Valley Bell Road to go in Maxwell Place.
And what purpose does the Valley Bell Road serve? I know I've heard this before, but just for
Sure.
reiteration.
One, it, in regards to both PUDs, it requires a road to gain access to their development, as well as the residential piece. Two, it's a response, need as well, to shorten the, response times to all the growth that we have in the southern part of the township, all that mostly off Indian Ripple Road. So I never said that the road wasn't needed for response time, so that was a misquote or whatever, but,
Sir, I'm sorry. I'm just asking him. Go ahead.
yeah.
Thank you.
The road is needed for the response times, and it was identified in the standards of coverage.
Right. And that standards of cover report was a public document. It was published.
Yeah, so it was published.
Essentially is
Yep.
available to the township and to the city residents, and that's
Correct.
that document was essentially the precursor to the determination of the need for Station 65 as well as Station 66 at some
Correct.
point in the future. And then, okay, go on, I'm sorry.
And then we also, in regards to, there was a lot of discussion at the zoning commission level as well as the township trustee level and the development of Woodridge 3, of whether or not to eliminate a lot here and connect Hickory Knoll or a road anywhere off Hidden Forest to the Valley Bell connector, which in return would eliminate the, as you can see here on the map, the need for the emergency access.
At the time, though, the developer did not want to give up the lot.
Correct. They didn't want to give up, they would have to give up essentially any one of these lots along the west side of the development. Now, this road shifted a couple times because it moved further to the west, but yeah, there was never, the developer didn't want to give up any of these
Well, but that whole
parcels.
hidden forest shifted because of the drainage issues and kind of the swampy lot that is unbuildable. And then the lake lot obviously had some issues, but the main one was, I guess, to the southeast of the lake lot. That whole road shifted during when we were going through the recording process. We were fighting that with the developer. He was trying to record lots before the road was even finished and put the road in before the road was approved and
Correct.
all kinds of problems. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And so, at the end of the day, how many lots are contemplated on Maxwell Place in the 40s or 30s? I can't remember.
In regards to the whole residential piece, so this is a separate PUD
then
from
it
the
wraps
next
around,
PUD.
right.
So the township approved, I believe, 13 lots along the, essentially, we'll call
Along
it the connector.
corridor.
Yeah.
But then it wraps up and around.
And then, yes, and then there's 42 lots
Correct.
potentially proposed. Now, we haven't seen a site plan for that. And there may be some modifications in regards to, site plan for the whole development. Well, we don't know yet. But right now, the development site plan that's been approved shows the road with turn lanes coming off to right about here, with a road going up into
Correct. Because
Maxwell
the road
Place.
actually hugs Country Club of the North.
Yeah, so
the street front, essentially the front of the houses would theoretically face CCN.
Correct.
The rear of the homes would face the connector corridor.
The road.
Essentially would go in, but then that one road coming in, essentially, if you zoom back out, if and when those 42 lots to the north of CCN, access to that section would come from this 13 lot section of Maxwell Place. It would go north and then elbow to the west, and then branch off from there. There's no access points coming off of the cul-de-sacs because those are all off the existing CCN cul-de-sacs there.
Correct. There is no connection off CCN.
Right. And so if you can zoom out a little bit further and look at what's happening on Shepherd. And so we have a neighborhood we refer to as Scarborough, but then we have Bexley Hills, and then we have the next section of Bexley that's coming, essentially. And so if you can, I don't recall there, Mr. Grogan, if you recall, or Alex, I know Ed would probably know the number off, or Max might know the number off the top of their head, but as far as the number of homes that are, at least on the most recent plan, were contemplated there or approved.
It's probably in the chart here.
It should be, I was gonna say, in our,
Can't move fast enough.
River West, Scarborough, and Bexley Hills. So Scarborough is approved for 75 homes, and Bexley is obviously 89 homes, and it's built out at 100%. So River West would have the 75 homes. Homes built are only 13, so 49%.
right, okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, so we've seen
And so-
some plans.
Increased density essentially coming in this section of Beavercreek Township, notwithstanding what's happening countywide as far as corridor traffic. And so anyone that lives in this section and then essentially needs to go north across 35 today has three options, essentially. Realistic options. They can either go up and around to the airport and come down, which makes no sense for most people's commute. They'd be adding a significant amount of time. They can go down to Factory, turn right, and go north on Factory up to US 35, or they can continue essentially down to Alpha Bellbrook and take Alpha Bellbrook, or go all the way to North Fairfield and try to connect up there. So from a connectivity standpoint, as far as increased density that's building now and coming, the regional connectivity, remind us, is that road ultimately gonna be a township road or a county road?
That'd be a county road.
Right, and so it's not as though it's a township road. They're from a regional, from a county-wide connectivity standpoint and commute north-south. There's been a need, at least since I've been involved here from 2014, there's been people begging for another north-south corridor to be able to get to across 35, and specifically to Treybine, because Treybine has become, as we know from other projects we're dealing with on the north side of 35, Treybine at Dayton Xenia and Hilltop, and then all the way up to Fairborn. Essentially, the traffic counts continue to increase, the speeds are going faster and faster, and the loads, which is why we're building another station 65 now to handle the development to the north, as well as response times. So from a response time standpoint, the standards of cover identified the need for a station, not because of people living at the airport, but because of all of the residential development that's going on in this sector. And so that report, what year was that we did that?
Chief's on here, he could tell you when it was.
Chief, I don't know if you
I believe it was
recall.
14.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's been, I think we started in 14, finished in 16 or something of that nature, so it's been out there for a while. So, not to beleaguer the subject, but ultimately, I think it's important that the board, number one, recognizes that, and I've said this 100 times and I'll say it again, it's impossible to please the whole world and your mother-in-law at the same time. From a standpoint of looking at what is best for the community from an overall standpoint, we're challenged ultimately to make a determination that sometimes may not even benefit our backyard, our personal backyards, but it's for the broader, from a community standpoint, and when the county identifies a need for a county road to connect two dots, essentially to get people to be able to move from dot A to dot B, which is US 35, and go east, west, or north. It's the township, we need to recognize that and work with it with the lowest impact we can. It is a fact that this has been in process and in the works for longer than I've been on the board, which started in 2014. And so Sometimes that's communicated to folks when they buy real estate, sometimes it's not. I'm in the real estate business, so I'm well aware of it from a commercial and a residential aspect. It's unfortunate. We actually have residents in this township that are Beavercreek Township residents, and their children go to Xenia schools. And they contact us annually and complain about that their realtor never told them. So from a standpoint of need, from a fire response time, from a standpoint of need as far as increased throughput and density of housing that's coming and already approved, there's no question. And then when you look at Maxwell Place and the access and what's needed to get in and out of that, and then let alone if they take it from 13 to 55 homes, there's significant improvement needed there. So appreciate the comments, always welcome the input. Sometimes we just have to disagree. So, all right, moving on. No old business, no new business. Greene County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Board. First item is the biweekly report, followed by the monthly report in your packet. And Sergeant Moore is on here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Sergeant Moore?
I had nothing.
I just had a compliment on the amount of time you're spending and your team is spending on 35, slowing that traffic down with the construction. I appreciate the time spent on patrol and the traffic stops that you're making. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Congrats to everyone, and we're just trying to stay ahead of it with the construction and get through this next year.
Thank you.
Sergeant Moore, I guess, and Mr. Zaharieff, can you shed light on what falls within the township trustees' purview relative to regulating private firing ranges on private property in the township, in the unincorporated portion?
So it's actually an issue that we're addressing now. I don't know if you're asking because of.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, I figured as much. That's being addressed tonight, as soon as I can grab one of the IT gentlemen back there when they're done and get my email with me. But you know, people are allowed to shoot in the unincorporated areas. There's some rules that can't shoot over roadways. You can't actively shoot into homes. You can't shoot in a manner that endangers people. But at the end of the day, they're able to shoot in unincorporated areas. It just has to be done in a safe manner. And this has been a topic throughout the years. It's something that we have spoken with at length with the prosecutors over the years, have an understanding of their threshold. But if you're shooting in a safe manner, it can be done. Probably in the incident that you're hearing about, that's what's under investigation, because it wasn't in a safe manner.
Right. And
we're trying to do an investigation there to figure out what went wrong in that regard.
The situation we had, just for those that may or may not be aware of it, is we have a master plan community where essentially one of the residents' homes in that neighborhood essentially was hit by a stray bullet that was fired from, whether it's a piece of agricultural property or whatever it was fired from a neighboring property that was large enough and suitable enough to have a firing range. And so those neighbors are essentially complaining that the township should essentially put a stop to being able to discharge firearms in the unincorporated portion. And so does the Ohio Revised Code even, from a permissive form of government, or do we have the authority to even address that?
No.
And
So as a permission form.
That's what I had
yeah.
indicated to folks, that
Yeah.
it's not something that we can change that. We're a permissive form of government.
The only thing that we have to turn to is the Ohio Revised Code. So as a permissive form of government, we cannot create our own rules and ordinances like you see in cities that says you can't shoot within the township limits. We cannot do that. Currently, if the ORC says townships could limit that, then yes. But right now, the state legislature does not allow that under townships. And it really doesn't allow it anywhere in the state of Ohio. It just allows, under home rule, in cities, they're allowed to create their own laws or city ordinances, and they're able to pass that.
But Sergeant, no different than if one of us were hunting on public land during a permitted season, we are ultimately responsible for where our bullet travels.
Ultimately, that's been the message that we've been trying to get out to folks, is that, if for lack of a better phrase, it's not a problem until it is a problem type thing. So if you shot, to use your point, if you shot a deer in the same spot year after year after year, and it's been fine, but on a particular year, your shot goes through the deer onto a property and causes a problem, then that person can be liable for that.
Right.
Okay. And it's a difficult, it's a tight line, and respecting gun owner rights and respecting private property, and all the rights that go with that. So it's something that we want to definitely stay ahead on. We invite the community to speak with us about it. We're prepared to do so. But in regards to what brings us to this topic, there is an active investigation going on for that incident. It has been going on thoroughly since the onset.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Sergeant Moore? Stay safe. All right, Human Resources.
Thank you, Board. First item is policy update. We have some easy one for you. First one is military leave. Just one change that's been also approved by legal, which you can see it in red highlighted in your packet on page 86, and then there's a motion there as well. Trish is here to answer any questions.
Any questions on this policy?
I have no questions.
No questions.
We have a motion to approve.
I move to approve the military leave policy as amended.
Second. Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Chris.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next is non-work related disability. Same thing. Changes are on page 88 with a motion. Some of this is also based on some other changes and practices of the township and what we've done in the past also.
I have no questions.
Only question I had was, why did we change the word shall to will?
Was that legal?
But we don't know why they requested that.
It's just something that we changed a long time ago in the collective bargaining agreement and all of our documents. And so I'm just making it consistent.
Just to align those?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it did come from one of our attorneys.
Thank you.
Sure.
I make a motion to approve the non-work related disability policy as presented.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Chris.
Yes.
Thank you. And the last one we have for you tonight is the Cobra update. Changes are one change, and that's on page 90, followed by a motion.
I did have a question on this one, Trish. It's been my experience with Cobra related expenditures for people. Did you get any recommendation to have, usually people have to have paid their Cobra premium within a time period before the next bill goes out. I didn't understand why you didn't address the time period of payment from a person that's left the city, the township.
Well, that has always been something that's been worked out with the fiscal office as far as the timing. I can certainly add it, but even we have two people who are on it now, and they're still paying it by the time period that was established by Jan.
Well, I would
So
recommend.
I've never, that's always come from that side. So.
Because the problem that happens with Cobra is Cobra costs more for a person that leaves the township.
100%.
And therefore, it's hard to come up with that amount of money. And I feel that we need to address the fact that if it's not paid on a timely basis, they can be terminated from Cobra. And I feel that we need to amend this policy to add that in there, since we're updating it. I don't feel comfortable updating it with just the miscellaneous. I feel that another point needs to be made about the timing and the fiscal, and I think Mr. Rushing, maybe that's something that you could recommend to Human Resources, in that what's good for you, because if a person is 3 months late on their payments,
You've already got the benefit.
they've had the benefit, and there's no way you're gonna ever get the money back, ever.
And a potential claim.
And then you get stuck with a claim in between. You're right. You get stuck with a claim in between, and they haven't paid their part of their premium, and there's a claim there. We're at a loss. So I do feel that we need to make another point on this Cobra policy to address the fiscal side.
I'm in complete support of that. Working off your working knowledge, we can set either a specific time period, or do we want to put it in terms of, shall be determined by the finance department?
I don't know that you'd want it, I guess number one is I would recommend running it just through legal, but I don't know if your best practices from a human resource standpoint, Trish, so number one, if we have a policy that states that, for example, must be paid in advance of the due date for that billing cycle, and an employee does not pay it in advance, then one would presume that we have the legal right to terminate Cobra. If we have one employee pays in advance, one employee pays in arrears because they're in a different financial situation, I don't know that we would have enough consistency. Essentially, if you apply a policy or a rule consistent across all of the employees, then you have the ability to go back and say, no, we have to follow the policy. If we have an a la carte way of doing it, I don't know, do we actually have the legal right to terminate if we have told an employee that they can pay it in arrears, for example, because of their financial situation, and it takes 3 months for them to pay it?
Usually 90 days in there.
Do we have the legal right to actually terminate them?
Well, it's not us, the group will terminate.
Well, but if the township has paid it, that's the problem. The township would be paying the bill.
What
The
I-
employee is reimbursing the
We
township.
prepay.
Right.
We prepay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So what we've done is, I can't speak to what was done prior to Jan, because I
Sure.
wasn't privy to that information, but with Jan, my recommendation is that they submit a check on the first of the month. She has to have it in hand by the first.
Is that for the prior month, or is that for the prior month, or for the upcoming?
For the benefit month.
That makes
They would
sense.
receive the
Okay.
actual benefits.
So essentially paying in advance. So if we vet that just through legal between you and HR and vet that, add that, that's a good point. But the biggest issue is that if they're paying in arrears, the township has already
Sure.
paid the bill.
They
You
don't
can't
pay.
backdate the termination of it.
Right.
And so then if you run into a collection issue, and, so,
We could,
No, I would recommend that we pull this from from discussion, put it into a
Yeah.
discussion, and you and Mr. Rushing and Ms. Gustafson would deal with that on what you think is good wording, and then take it to the attorneys, and then come back at a later date with this particular Cobra policy. I think that would probably work.
I'm fine with that.
I'm in support of that.
yeah, we could do the current way we're
Thanks,
doing it
Trish.
now and just make that a part of the policy.
Say that again?
You do it what we're currently now, that we have to have the check in hand the first of
However,
the month.
yeah,
Well,
just come
whatever
up,
Mr.
Yeah.
Rushing decides
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Yeah.
reduce to writing on.
Yep,
essentially the language in advance of the billing cycle.
yeah.
So, or the, whatever term you just used as far as the coverage period. It has to be paid in advance of that, and then
I think that would make this a more complete policy.
the first month is a challenge for some, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
after that, you get into a routine.
Okay. Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 91, is the biweekly report.
I have no questions on that.
I have none. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you, Board. Next item is on page 94 of your packet, as the Community Development and Risk Department's biweekly report. I'll turn it over to Mr. Brogan.
3 quick points. TAC meeting agenda was attached on there. We do have a zoning commission case this Thursday night, case 821. It'll be up in the Bay here at Station 61 with anticipation of a large crowd. And then also Just to give you an update or highlight the update, there is no date quite yet on the river cleanup yet. So Ed is in touch with the river rangers to be able to set that date up. So just give you an update.
Relative to the zoning case 821, that's the McIntyre farm?
Yes,
To be
sir.
clear, okay. And so as far as notice that was sent for that, did we stick to the 500 feet, or did we go beyond that and include other neighborhoods that might be impacted or that have expressed concern?
I think we stuck to the 500 feet, if I'm not mistaken.
But the people that contacted us, we let them know.
Yeah, we would have let them know,
Right.
yeah,
I
any
know it's
additional.
circulated through HOAs, so
Yeah.
it just,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, and has the group that sought legal advice on that, has that advanced into any further question?
Not that
or-
we
No,
know
sir,
of.
no,
Okay.
not the way, no.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming we would know more at the public hearing.
Right, they would come and challenge it there. Okay. And are you gonna broadcast that? Is that just gonna be
Just a regular
just
meeting
an
like this.
in-person
It'll be
meeting?
recorded
Those
and
that
then
attend?
posted.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be recorded and posted, but,
Okay.
yep.
Any questions for community development and risk?
I had no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Oh, I had one other question, I'm sorry. Anything relative to the right turn lane into Nathaniel's Grove on Beaver Valley?
And maybe Mr. Parks can comment a little bit on it also, but there were some grading stakes or some survey stakes that were placed out there.
Okay.
And I think they're anticipating still movement of the already moved power lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No mistake.
IT.
Thank you, board. First item we have in front of you is a resolution to surplus some equipment. You can pass it as presented on page 105.
I was looking in the packet, there was no list of the equipment.
It's in the, now therefore, two Dell laser printers, T00723
Oh,
and
okay.
T00.
I was-
Yeah, it was a small item. Usually we have the attachments.
Yeah, usually.
Because it's hundreds of items.
Right.
These three items are in the finance department.
Okay.
They're reduced due to, they were purely for softwares, the UAN that we no longer use, and they're obsolete, and they're ready to be surplus.
Oh,
Great. Thank you. Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion on resolution number 202-10412-IT-A for finding certain township equipment to be surplus and disposed of as presented.
Second.
Trustee Walls,
Yes.
trustee Dean,
Yes.
trustee Cross.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Next item is the biweekly report, and I'll turn it over to our IT professionals.
Good evening. I am Abraham. I'm joined by my colleague Andrew. Any questions on the biweekly report before I move on to the kind of a server upgrade project update?
I had no questions
I
on
had no
the
questions.
bi-weekly part of it.
Perfect. Okay. So as part of your IT biweekly report, you should have noticed a couple bullet items updating you on the progress of the larger server upgrade infrastructure project. I want to just take 2 or 3 minutes and give everyone a little bit more granularity and detail on how that project is progressing. The server room itself is well on its way to where we need it to be industry best practices. We have the appropriate redundant power in place. We have a secondary HVAC unit installed. It is important to note the original HVAC unit is currently down, and Alex or Mr. Parks could give some more details on that. The equipment for the server upgrade project has all been ordered. A lot of it is here at the township or at our offices being pre-configured. We have a couple other pieces trickling in. Everything should be on site, ready to go by the end of the week of the 12th, which is this week. Because we really want to crunch up this timeline as much as possible and go very aggressive with completing this, we spent a lot of time pre-configuring as much as possible. So when all equipment does arrive, we can really move forward quickly and get the new system operational. As we move forward, we'll be communicating exact timelines to department heads, so they have an understanding of how it's going to affect their line of business applications, and there's no surprises as we move forward that process. I would like to bring your attention, this is going to iron out several reoccurring issues. We are implementing a alternate VPN solution across the organization. This is going to greatly reduce issues with firefighters and those remotely accessing township resources. It works much more consistently and is much more reliable type of infrastructure. Our internal goal for this is to have things completed by May. That's off the old infrastructure and onto the new one. Overall, we are tracking very well for well within budget, and the process and timeline is as we would anticipated. This is really an exciting piece to get knocked out for the township. Not only is it going to get us on the right, most updated infrastructure, but it's also going to iron out a lot of reoccurring issues, and it's going to put us on a very stable platform for the upcoming years. So, any questions on where we're at?
I'm just glad to see you moving forward on this, and when it's all done, I'd like to have a tour of the room again.
Absolutely, we can do that.
So, I know we'll cover it shortly here as far as the managing that environment that all of the equipment is in. Obviously, when one system's out, you're not going to have three systems as far as redundancy, 3 levels of redundancy, but as far as just making sure that we have everything in that that the environment is controlled to the best it can, that it's filtered and buffered as far as power and spikes coming into the room, and that it's fully supported, I guess, by our backup generator system in the event of a complete catastrophic failure of some nature. So.
Yep, it is, and that was part of the original proposal of the board, was also to make some modifications to electrical system in there.
Right.
And then we've already installed the backup system. Unfortunately, right now it's running as the primary system.
Right.
We're going to, next on the agenda is to replace the primary system. So we will have the redundant system in there to keep the room cool as required. Unfortunately, we're just working off the backup system. We did install part of the upgrade. So.
Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Grunts, may I?
Sure.
You mentioned the always-on VPN.
Mm-hmm.
Is that solution in replace of the current Sonic Wall VPN? As a heavy user of the VPN and working remote, curious about that. Is that a replacement to what we'd be using today?
Yeah, so right now the always-on VPN had a number of issues. We rolled out the Sonic Wall net extender. The net motion is what we were rolling out. That is going to replace the net extender type of setup.
Okay, and that would improve speed and this overall experience?
It is our recommendation to deploy this type of setup to municipalities like this. So, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks
Perfect.
for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Roads.
Thank you, Board. First item is on 110, related to the previous conversation, was to replace the AC unit, which is the primary unit system in the server room, IT server room. We do have currently a 3-year agreement for maintenance with Boyle Mechanical. Staff is recommending moving forward replacing that. This will be a expenditure that was not budgeted, but we have enough money in the line item to support the purchase of this in the general fund.
And do we have any update as far as the insurance claim that was in process?
The adjuster, I believe, reached out to either us or IT. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're currently in process.
Okay.
He's just trying to touch base with their adjuster, coming back and forth.
Okay. Do we have any indication that that they're going to support the request or that they're going to deny the request?
I think they would be hard for us to deny.
Okay.
It's just the information that
Okay.
I was given, well, I won't say I gave the adjuster when I spoke to them.
Sure.
timeline and start to finish, so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions on this request?
I have no questions.
Was it Boyle Mechanical that came out originally and fixed it and then left, or was that another company? I can't remember from the.
That was them that came out originally,
Mm-hmm.
and then once we brought the problem to their attention, they actually had a guy come out twice a day for 3 weeks and kept that system running until we get the backup system in.
Okay.
At no charge.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you felt comfortable with leaving them in place if they came out and fixed
Yeah,
it.
we've had a long discussion with them. They understand where we're coming from.
Okay.
If there's no other questions, a motion on page 111.
Go for it.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 202104112-Road-A to Boyle Mechanical for replacement of Libret unit for the IT room in the amount of $22,247, and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Krebs.
Yes.
Thank you, board. Next
Thanks,
item is
Mr. Parks.
biweekly report.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Parks?
I have no questions.
I had no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
To speak against your question on the turn lane,
Yes.
when we walked in with the contractor, some of the utilities that were moved weren't moved far enough.
Jeez.
Put the turn lane in.
It took 6 months to
So
move them.
that's what we're working on now, to get those corrected, so.
Was that DP&L?
AT&T.
Oh, AT&T.
And then there was a fiber line from someplace out of Cincinnati that runs through there, and all they had to do was move it from one pole to the other, and hadn't done that as of we walked in, so.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to make a
Go
point on, Mr. Parks, on your weekly report, or monthly report on the sold several graves. We did sign off today on some of the grave, deeds. I want to put it for the record that, there were 2 people, Susan Ann Wallace and William Robert Wallace, are in no relation to me at all. I don't know those people, and I did sign off on that deed. But just as a public knowledge, they are not related to me in any way, and nor have I ever heard their names. And that's all I have on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All
board.
right. Fire.
First item is Station 65 update. I'll turn it over to the fire chief. Starts on page 131.
Good evening, board. Appreciate your time tonight. First, I apologize. I was slow on unmuting for the question earlier. I believe it was related to the standards of cover, and that was completed. It was performed in 15 and posted and presented to the board in 16. So, be happy to answer if there's any additional questions regarding that.
Nope, I think that matched the recollection. Thank you.
I actually have Chief Easter on here with me this evening, and he can answer much more specifically any questions you may have on the project generally or on the purchase request if you'd like to tackle both of those together.
Just as far as the project update, and so, any contractor issues that we need, that essentially are anticipated or we need to be aware of at this point as far as with Broomball or their subs?
We've had one issue with a sub basically leaning against the project itself that is being addressed and handled as a prevailing wage issue, and it's not a township. Township is not involved for that. It's a subcontractor that's responsible for that. We did get the notification, and that was passed on to our legal counsel to advise on how to handle.
And so, was the township a named party, or was it just related because of the work is being done on a township project?
As I understand, the township was named in the lien, but we haven't gotten any other additional documentation legal-wise, unless Alex, you have any additional information on that that I don't have.
No, the township's currently not named. The lien is on the prevailing wage issue, and the issue is that the employee was paid as a laborer and paid correctly under labor rate, but the employee for the subcontractor saying they should be paid at the carpenter rate. So that is all turned over to the Department of Labor, and Department of Labor will, if it's not settled before that between the subcontractor and the employee, it could take up to a year, 6 months to a year for the Department of Labor to have a finding.
Did our, if I recall, and maybe incorrect, but I thought we had it in, if the township is incurring a legal cost to defend an action or inaction of the contractor, is there an indemnification clause in there where the contractor would indemnify the township and cover that legal expense?
I'd have to go back and look at the contract, but right now we're not currently named.
Okay,
So-
but are we expending legal dollars to defend it?
Other than sending it to them, and they were CC'd on it.
Okay, just an awareness,
yeah,
it's not an
yeah.
active defense.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not something that we're currently working on.
Something just to put in the back of the mental minds for future, and normally it's in those construction contracts that if there's a lien or if there's an action or inaction that causes, essentially the property owner
Yeah.
to be involved, but the tag along essentially to a lawsuit or something of that nature.
I'll go
Just
back and look at
Make
that.
sure that for future reference that we have an indemnification clause in there that the contractor indemnifies and holds the township harmless.
I had a question, Chief, on the Station 65 update. You had stated that the property owners were requested from the property owners possible access to parking and that no agreement was reached. Is there any, are they adamant that no, we can't have parking, or is still in discussion? Or have we found any other areas for more workers to park?
We have not found any new areas for workers to park. When the residents on both sides were approached originally, Leo's property to the immediate west wasn't feasible for the ground. Generally speaking, would have had to have access from his driveway, which there were too many trees in between the property and his lot, and all that construction traffic would have used his driveway, making it that we would have most likely had to replace his driveway after the end of the project, which would add a cost to our project. The other resident was looking more for compensation and a right-of-way to be placed to do that and go through that process. We evaluated that briefly with Bricker, but we didn't have an immediate need for it, and we haven't revisited it yet because the construction manager has been able to make do with the space that he has.
Thank you.
Any other questions as far as the station update, and then we can move into the change proposals? Chief, if you can just, Chief Easter, if you can just walk us through the requests for the change proposals?
Sure. So we've got several change proposals in it that we've been working through. One is interior finishes. We've been working with that for quite some time. I know the township administrator had made you aware of the countertops. We went back to a laminate product. That's the same product that we used in Station 62 and 64. That product has not held up well in either one of those fire stations. And with the cost savings that we had from the antenna tower, we were looking at going back to a solid surface. We had two products that were proposed to us. One is a Corian product
Couple questions I had on that one. What was the original budget for the laminate material counters?
Let me pull that up. It's taking me a moment to get to that as it's in VIP, so I'm pulling out
Sure.
VIP here just
Thank you.
momentarily.
Where I'm heading with it, Chief Easter, is just what is the, if we look, the cost difference, obviously, between, there's an upgrade cost, but is that higher or lower than the original amount? And could you replace the laminate counters twice before you paid for the difference in material?
I will have to look further into that. The change proposal only gives me the additional cost. It does not give me the base price. So that will take me a little bit more time to dig that answer out for you.
Okay.
The upgrade cost for the countertops themselves, the Corian product is a $6,000 upgrade itself. But I don't have the base price for the laminate.
Okay. Based on just past experience, do you anticipate that it was, that's obviously the increase in price. Do you have any feel for if that's more than or less than the cost of the original laminate counters?
That is in addition to the laminate. So it's the laminate base price plus the $6,000 would give us the price for Corian. An additional $8,000 on top of the $6,000 would give us the price for the quartz product. I would have to go back and find the base price for the laminate. I do not have that in front of me or readily available.
Okay. Is heat any concern as far as the Corian product? As far as people putting a hot pan or something on that heat, on that Corian?
That is why the architect proposed a quartz product as well. The Corian will stain or mark if a hot pan is placed on it. The quartz product does not, so they provided us with both options.
Okay. And then as far as the diamond plate, not my only concern, but a concern I have obviously is that these facilities are open to the public as they should be because it's the residents' fire station. And so are we going a step beyond where we should with taxpayer money as far as building out a diamond plate walled gym?
Sure. So the diamond plate is only on the lower section, and it's just enough on the wall to prevent a weight from placing a hole in the wall. We've had several of those in the other fire stations, with the exception of Station 62, because Station 62 is all block walls in the workout room. We looked at the cost of trying to do a block wall, which became a little bit infeasible because one of the walls is a load-bearing wall with hurricane bracing in it. So when we had asked about that change, we were a little bit late in the game to ask for that change to a block wall early on. The recommendation actually came from John Schroeder after he did Station 64 that said that actually helped and prevented additional holes in the walls from mishaps that were unplanned. So that's where the recommendation kind of came from, and we chose to ask to follow through with that, but we obviously do not have to. We can leave it as a drywall and a vinyl finish on that wall.
The only reason I ask is because a hole in the wall from weights would generally occur from someone slamming weights on the floor, which is a practice that should be corrected or adjusted, or equipment that's placed to, if someone's doing a bench press and the bar shifts to the right and it pokes a hole in the wall, or something of that nature. So to me, it seems like there's a way to plan it. I also, I guess, think of, when I price diamond plate in the past for other projects, it is expensive. It's not an inexpensive product. And I look at car washes and I look at walk-in coolers that have heavy vinyl, heavy plastic, as far as walls that are actually washable as well. And I just question if there's a better use of taxpayer dollars. That's my concern. Obviously, if we're gonna have to be repairing walls on a monthly basis, we either have an employee problem or we have a design problem, or both. So,
Sure, so they are definitely cramped spaces to some extent, but I can do a little bit more research and come back to you with the price comparison from the vinyl product that was already there, to any other options as well, and do the same with the countertops if you like.
based on the current state of the station, I'm assuming that this proposal 10 is not an emergency request yet. It's not, we're not at a point where we need to decide in the next 2 weeks. Is that
No,
correct?
the countertop is going to be more critical than the wall covering, because the countertop is going to be impacted by the casework submittal. So we need to make sure that that lines up, but it isn't critical to pass this.
Okay. Those are just my questions. I hadn't formed an opinion, but it was just a concern. So anybody else have a question or a comment?
I guess my comment is I'd probably wanna go with quartz if heat products are gonna stain or make
It'll burn it.
impressions on here. Then, I mean, you've got several people, different people cooking at different times, and speed is probably at a essence, especially if an alarm is sounded, and you have to take something off of a hot stove and put it on the counter, which would probably happen.
Right.
So I can't recommend going to the Corian when the probability is high it's gonna get all marked up with burn marks.
Yeah, the only, and I don't know if you've had experience in this as well, but 2 houses that I've recently flipped, granite was actually less expensive than quartz, and solved the heat problem.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that was even contemplated, or if it was more from a color match that they were going with the quartz, but at least in 2 I've got underway right now, in both cases, granite was less expensive than quartz.
Yeah.
So the only guidelines we gave the architect when they asked about that issue with the solid surface countertops was that we wanted a reasonably priced product, and we asked about our different concerns, and
Okay.
heat was brought up, and so these are the 2 recommendations that came back.
Okay,
Again, I'm happy to go back and ask them for other comparables as well.
maybe just, yeah,
We do have
explore.
a version of change proposal 10 that does have the quartz pricing with it, so I can absolutely rework that part of the 15-point slide and bring that back to the next meeting with that information as well.
That'd be great, thank you. And just, yeah, just because my understanding too, from a cleanability standpoint, granite is not a porous surface, so it's not gonna absorb compared to the man-made products. So, and quartz is a man-made product, so.
He doesn't bother, you can put a hot pan on it and then.
Right, it will chip, but
Yeah, we'll chip, but it won't.
just don't drop weights on it.
Don't put it near the weights.
Okay,
Wouldn't
All right.
recommend putting it on the wall on the way.
thank you. If you can rework that and just bring it back, and I'm sure we'll come up with what is reasonable. As far as proposal 14, seems to be a no-brainer.
14 is a rework in the plan submittal process. The original design for the station included a 2.5-inch unmetered water line for the bay. This is generally used in the wintertime months when it is not conducive to fill at a hydrant or may cause a public hazard if we try to fill an engine at a hydrant. These would be single engine calls that may go out and use some water but not a whole tank full. So not where we would be required to hook to a fire hydrant for a long period of time to put out a fire. And so we have planned in our facilities a way to fill those fire trucks back up inside the station so that we didn't put freezing water onto the roadway in that fill process. To do that, a change was, I guess, documented in the plans review process that line needed to be reconfigured and have its own backflow preventer, and was connected differently to the domestic water line before the meter to do that. And this change proposal reflects the additional backflow preventer and installation costs to do that particular change.
Okay. And my only comment or request is that we build that into Station 66, as far as when we build that budget for that project. So, okay. Change order number 10.
Change order number 10 was an increase in the winter protection allowance. We actually asked them for documentation on this before they expended the additional dollars, but at this point we have not approved the additional dollars that they have asked for. They were a little bit late in getting the paperwork to us for that. They had some additional cold months that, and cold is
only comment on this is that it came as a surprise only because I believe I've asked about the winter protection allowance in 3 separate meetings, and we did not anticipate exceeding our allowance. So it just came as a surprise. So if you've vetted the documentation and you're comfortable with that, then we owe what we owe. So, okay.
That's
Proposal,
supposed to get cold this week again.
Proposal 15.
Proposal 15 is to relocate the sanitary force main. Again, during the plans review process, the Greene County engineer required us to move the sanitary force main out of the middle of the right-of-way over to the edge of the right-of-way based on some future plans that she has for the road. So this reflects the cost change for the additional pipe to place that along the outer edge of the right-of-way all the way down Trayvine Road until we connect to Clifton Boulevard North. So that was a change that we did not ask for, but the county engineer did mark on that plans before they would be approved.
Okay, and this is not related to the mistake on the drawing, or this is related to that?
That's not related to
No,
the
this
state.
is not related to that. That is a separate issue. That is actually the last one, change proposal 18.
Right, okay, all right. And 16?
16 was also in the plans review process. The Greene County Building Department required us to change the vent hood size from a 30 to a 36 inch and change the ventilation capacity of that hood. They did not require us to put a hood protection system in. There was some debate back and forth on whether this was a commercial system or residential system, and we had to provide some additional documentation and clarification to them. Ultimately, this was the compromise. We weren't required to put a hood suppression system in. But again, it came from the plans review process to make this change.
We have a residential range or oven, or we have a
Yes,
commercial?
it is a residential oven that's in place there that will be underneath this range. It's a single unit like we have at all the other facilities.
Okay.
If I may comment, we encountered this on the Station 62 and Station 64 project. Greene County building regulations have had other jurisdictions come in with larger ranges and hoods because they do kind of expose it to other community events and stuff like that. So it's always a question that's been out there, but it is something that we tackled with the letter of intent.
Okay. Okay. And then 18?
18 is the mistake on the drawings that you referred to earlier. The initial drawings reflected the water main to be much closer to the edge of pavement on Trayvine Road than what it actually was. This was again a compromise. We actually got a price quote back at just over $12,000 to place the connection for the fire hydrant that would be on the Trayvine Road side and connect that into the existing location of the water main, because we would have to go so much farther into the road, the additional fill that would be required, and traffic control would be required. We took a look at that, and Fire Marshal Bergen helped us out with spitballing some ideas to try to reduce that cost. We came down to moving the fire hydrant and the FDC to the rear of the structure. So this particular change order moves the fire department connection to the sprinkler system to the north wall. It'll actually come down in the laundry room and then protrude out the wall. And the fire hydrant will be then immediately across the parking lot at the end of our driveway, kind of right where our parking starts. This would require us to do an easement making that section of pipe from the water main on Fairgrounds Road up to the fire hydrant to provide that as municipal water main. And Fire Marshal Bergen can probably more eloquently articulate what I'm trying to say there, or explain that a little bit better if I haven't done well.
Just fine.
And so is the county participating in this cost at all?
No. So what had happened was the plans that were provided never had the updated turn lane on the widening of Fairgrounds Road. So the water main was in the correct location, but it was not showing the widening project that occurred, I don't know how many years ago, that at the intersection that pushed the pavement, further to the west to accommodate the left turn lane onto Fairgrounds.
So is that Broomball's error then, or is it the county's error?
The county provided Brewball with drawings in lieu of actually marking the water main. So the drawings were submitted and used because that's what was provided in the location requested.
Okay.
So it's like a perfect storm. I mean, when we actually asked them to come out and market, that's when we discovered it was in the middle of Treebine, which at one point would have been the edge of the pavement.
Okay. Anybody have questions, concerns, or comments on?
We'll also point out too, Board, but, some of these, as the chiefs have indicated, are below the threshold. That's why I asked staff to bring it as a 1, so you could see all the change orders, even though some I could have approved by township policy. In fact, the majority of them I could have approved by township policy, but in regards to letting the taxpayers know, in regards to the board, it is being transparent in regards to, some of these change orders, so that there are additional costs.
Okay. And I guess as a board, are we agreeing that we'll table change proposal number 10, the interior finishes?
Yes.
But change order 10, the winter protection, the proposal 14, proposal 15, 16, and 18, those are what we would like to vote on today?
Yes,
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
So you'll be starting with motion, fire B.
Right.
We can change it
Right.
in minutes.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve purchase request 21 Fire 0840 to Roomba Construction, Inc. for unmetered water line in the amount of $7,567 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Gretz.
Yes.
And the additional winter protection will go on.
Yeah, it'd be 4.10.3 motion in your packet, page 135.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 21-fire-0841 to Broombrawl Construction for additional winter protection allowance in the amount of $5,000 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Gretz.
Yes.
I move to approve purchase request 21 Fire 0862 to Brubron Construction, Inc. for relocation of sanitary force main in the amount of $3,270 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Gretz.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve purchase request 21-fire-0863 to Broombrawl Construction, Inc. for range hood size and vent change in the amount of $1,031 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Gretz.
Yes.
I move to approve purchase request 21 Fire 0864 to Broombrown Construction, Inc. for fire hydrant and FDC relocation in the amount of $1,579 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Wallace.
Yes.
Trustee Dean.
Yes.
Trustee Gretz.
Yes. Thank you, Chief Easter, for the detail, as always.
Thank you. And if I didn't point it out earlier, we did need some time back. We are down to 10 days behind schedule currently. We were able to make some time up with the nice break of weather that we've had.
Need gravel for rain.
Yes, but we are most of the way dried in for the entire building, so the other subs can continue to work at this point, even if we do have rain or other inclement weather.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Lots of rain.
Any questions on the biweekly?
No.
I had none.
Thank you.
Board, the additional would be the 2 resolutions for the National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. We have 2 copies of each. I have the one in front of you to read off of, and then we have the Greene to go folder. One will go to the City of Beavercreek, and the other will go to City of Xenia to Greene Central Communications.
Are we missing the resolution for the surplus on the fire?
The next one is, next surplus is under fiscal.
Oh,
Finance
that's
Department.
fiscal, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
Okay. Is this part of the package or have to read the whole thing?
you had to read the whole thing, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I make a motion for a proclamation recognizing the City of Beavercreek Police Dispatch during National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Proclamation number 202-104-12-Fire-G, adoption date April 12th, 2021. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require fire, emergency medical services, or law enforcement, and when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of firefighters, paramedics, and police officers is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and the safety of our firefighters and police officers is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Beavercreek Police Department, and public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our firefighters and police officers by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the City of Beavercreek Police Dispatch have contributed substantially to the suppression of fires, treatment of patients, and apprehension of criminals. And each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that we, the Board of Trustees of Beavercreek Township, proclaim the week of April 11th through April 17th, 2021, to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Beavercreek Township, in honor of the men and women of the City of Beavercreek Police Dispatch, whose diligence and professionalism keep our township and citizens safe.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes.
If I can pick it up.
Alex, would like to present this to next council meeting?
Well, the council meeting's tonight, so
Tonight,
the
that's
next
what
one
I'm
will be 2 weeks from now. So we're actually presented to the dispatchers,
Okay,
yeah, like we've done in the past.
okay.
I can send also a copy to city manager of
Yeah.
both communities.
That'd be nice.
Oh, it's so nice to have a machine
Have a
right
generator.
here. Oh,
Let me just hum.
I know.
It is loud. I make a motion to adopt a proclamation recognizing Xenia Greene Central Communications Center during National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Proclamation number 2021-0412-Fire-8H. Adoption date April 12th, 2021. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require fire, emergency medical services, or law enforcement, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of firefighters, paramedics, and sheriff's deputies is critical to the protection of life and the preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our firefighters and sheriff's deputies is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Xenia Greene Central Communications Center, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, and whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our firefighters and sheriff's deputies by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of Xenia Greene Central Communications Center have contributed substantially to the suppression of fires, treatment of patients, and apprehension of criminals, and whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Township Trustees, Beavercreek, proclaim the week of April 11th through April 17th, 2021 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in Beavercreek Township in honor of the men and women of Xenia Greene Central Communication Center. Those diligent in professionalism keep our township and citizens safe.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. That's all we have under fire.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for your time, and I just wanted to point out how much work Chief Easter is putting in on Station 65 and its construction process, and that's in addition to his normal duties running the general operations of the fire department. So I appreciate the time and effort he's putting in to keep this all straight and get the information to make sure that either I'm prepared with the packet or we can get the questions answered for you guys. So it's a lot of additional work he's putting in.
Thank you. Anything else for fire? All right. Move on. Legal advisor, Ms. Frick. Anything awareness that we need to be looking at or considering?
No, nothing at this time.
Mr. Rushing.
Thank you, Board, and good evening. I'm actually going to turn this over to our Finance Director, Terry Molden, who I believe is on the call.
Hello, good evening, Board.
Good evening.
On page 140 of your packet, you'll find a resolution where we would like to dispose of some old equipment that is in the Finance Director's office that is no longer being used. It consists of a few paper shredders, an office chair, and a couple stools.
You can pass it as presented.
I make a motion for resolution number 202-10412-FIN-A, adoption date April 12th, 2021. A resolution finding certain township equipment to be surplus and disposed as presented.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
And then on page 142, we have another resolution. The township received an additional $67,656 from the Greene County Auditor. We need to update our certificate to the county auditor with that amount, and we also need to appropriate those funds.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
Make a motion to adopt a resolution to add additional revenue to the official certificate of available resources and to authorize supplemental appropriations for Fund 1000, the general funds. Resolution number 20210412-FIN-B.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
And Board, the next resolution is an appropriation, moving line item from contingencies to personnel due to some staffing changes that I believe the administrator has spoken to you prior.
Okay. We have a
I make a motion for resolution number 202-10412-FIN-C, adoption date April 12th, 2021. Resolution for reappropriations in the general fund 1000, as presented.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
yes. Thank you. VIP payroll.
Our final item tonight is the VIP payroll software request. You'll find on page 146. Our top three issues with Paycor is we do not have the ability to automatically post into VIP right now.
So the board's aware, this was not in your budget document, but as the board will recall, I did bring this up as a point of discussion during the budget hearing in December. So it was not included in the actual budget document, but was included in the permanent appropriations that the board adopted at the last board meeting. To Ms. Molden's point, our goal with the finance department now is, to somewhat control our own destiny. We have implemented VIP accounting to success, and we are now able to utilize and leverage that software to hopefully its full extent. A part of that is obviously this payroll piece, where we can control our own payroll costs. It is a capital expenditure up front, but over the course of where we see us utilizing VIP for at least a decade, if not longer, the annual support cost for VIP payroll is about $8,500, which pales in consideration of right now we are roughly paying how much per payroll, Terry, you believe? With
It's
payroll?
about 12,000 to 13,000 a year, depending on any extras we need during the year.
And we have
So
had
if you have
to,
an extra payroll that year,
right, and we have had to unfortunately run some special payrolls due to other items that have occurred. And those special payrolls do come at a cost, where if we had it in-house with VIP payroll, we'd be able to utilize that. It's also important to note that of the 3 staff members in the finance department, all 3 staff members have originally been trained with VIP payroll with their previous employers, among those Greene County. And our current staff has been, 2 of the current staff out of the 3 were part of implementing VIP payroll at their other institutions. Our accounts payable specialist actually was the chief manager of the VIP payroll implementation when she worked at Greene County Public Library System. So they're having to relearn Paycor, so this will allow us to also utilize their expertise with the payroll software if approved by the board.
I have a question. If this was approved, when would this be functional and operational?
So with success causes demand, and with a lot of the public, a lot of federal dollars, software solutions unfortunately is pretty backlogged with converting a lot of other entities to the software. So I believe they mentioned they hope by the end of the year, but unfortunately they couldn't commit to that. I don't know, Ms. Molden, if that's accurate, if there's a more finite timeline.
They stated to us that when they've got the signed contract, that they could get us scheduled towards the end of the year, beginning of next year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess from a timing standpoint, it'd be great if we could press them to have it on up and running and implemented. If we've already beat the training curve, which is what it sounds like, at least have it operational by the end of the year, so that you could start off the new year on one system rather than have 2 different systems that you have to. You'd have to generate, because would you have to generate a W-2 then from Paycor and from?
No, you would have the
Just
data,
have
you
one.
would bring it from Paycor.
You'd pull it in, okay. Either way.
That would be pulled to be able to implement by the end of the year.
Yeah.
And our account manager did mention, because we are already operational with VIP accounting, that potentially, and we have trained staff with VIP payroll, potentially they view that as obviously, hopefully cutting down our timeline in terms of implementation.
That'd be good.
Are we issuing and tracking 1099s through the payroll software or through another software?
We are doing that through the VIP accounting software.
Okay, so now that'll all be consolidated. So your 1099s, your W-2s, all of your payroll will be under one. So you'd eliminate the redundancy of going from Paycor into VIP and then just have all traceability back. So,
Correct, and it also does the 1095s as well.
yeah,
For
good.
the healthcare.
Okay. Okay, the only other question I had was, if we think we're gonna use something for a decade, is that why, while we're negotiating an annual, recurring cost, we might wanna look at a 3-year cost to try to lock in a rate rather than, anticipated increases. So, because our number of users for the payroll module, or any of these modules, our number of users, we can predict that, and so it's not as though we're gonna double the number of users in the next 3 years. So
Right. I did mention that exact question to our account manager. He informed me due to how the company is organized, they're employee-owned, their cost, how they project costs is different from other entities. And they utilize that for their CPI in order to outlay that. But I did raise the question.
Okay. Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to approve purchase request 21-FIN-0172 to Software Solutions for VIP payroll in the amount of $50,500 and to authorize the township administrator to sign for the board.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes. Any other questions for Mr. Rushing or comments from Mr. Rushing?
That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Okay. MVRPC update.
We had a great meeting with all the new executive officers in point. They did mention a new funding, it's called Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act funding that's allowing for resurfacing with no match from the local jurisdictions. So I'm recommending that Mr. Zaharia follow up on that funding request and see if we can be one of the first ones to apply for that. The solicitations are going to be formally put out in September, but the faster that we're on top of this, the quicker we maybe can get a response on resurfacing. That Mr. Parks, I'm sure, would be happy to have more money to resurface roads.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all I had from MVRPC.
Okay. Anything from TAC other than what's in the packet?
Just what's in your packet.
All right, and then Greene County Regional Planning, we have the executive committee on April 20th and a full commission meeting on April 27th. And I do not have the agenda of what items will be on the executive committee yet. Health Department Advisory Council.
There was a meeting first Thursday of the month. I was not able to attend or log in, I guess.
What was the secondary on that?
I don't know that we have one.
We have a second, a backup?
Go ahead with the report, I'll look that up.
And maybe
Okay.
if you can't, maybe whoever the secondary, you can let us know.
Yeah.
Because we need to start going to those meetings.
School Superintendent.
Last one I was there, just this one I wasn't.
Mrs. Harif, School Superintendent, City Manager, and meeting.
Yeah, I had a meeting with the city manager. We obviously talked about some projects in both communities, some projects that residential developments that are coming in the city, and some projects we have here in the township. We also discussed some ongoing capital projects and updates on, and I provided an update on the track application for the US 35. We talked about the super street for a little bit. I have not met with the city manager, or excuse me, the superintendent since our last meeting. So nothing to report other than what I reported last meeting.
Great. Restoration Advisory Board.
No meeting.
Greene County Township Association.
We have a meeting tomorrow night with the Greene County Engineer as our host. It's going to be at 6:30, and it's at the Greene County Engineer's offices.
And nothing to report from Investment Oversight Committee unless Mr. Rushing has something new from our bank partner, Huntington. There's nothing else to come before us. At this point, I'll accept a motion to go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, to consider the employment and compensation of public employees.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes. It is 7:26 p.m. Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved?
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Kretz.
Yes. Anything else to come before the board?
Yes, I have a motion. Motion number 202-10412-admin-H, after reviewing 1 year of operations of the Community Development and Risk Department and performance of the Community Development and Risk Department Fire Marshal. I move to approve a salary increase for the Community Development and Risk Administrator Fire Marshal to $113,658, effective April 15th, 2021.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve motion number 202104112-admin-I. After reviewing 1 year of operations of the Community Development and Risk Department and performance of the Associate Economic Development and Zoning Administrator, I move to approve a salary increase for Associate Economic Development and Zoning Administrator to $49,420, effective April 15th, 2021.
Second.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
Yes. If there's nothing else to come before the board,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Trustee Wallace,
Yes.
Trustee Dean,
Yes.
Trustee Cruz.
yes.
Need that,
Thank you.
motion.
Have a good evening. Take care, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you.